We start with the flat bottoms on modern 737 engine housings. Because the original 1960s 737 sat incredibly low to the ground, Boeing engineers had to flatten the bottom of modern high-bypass turbofans and move accessories to the sides to maintain ground clearance. The 737 completely lacks main landing gear doors. To save weight and complexity, the tires fold directly into the belly. The exterior side of the tire features a smooth aerodynamic hubcap to seal the opening flush. The iconic upper deck on the Boeing 747 wasn't built for premium lounges. In the late 1960s, Boeing believed supersonic jets like the Concorde would make subsonic passenger jets obsolete. They designed the 747 to be easily converted into a cargo freighter, raising the cockpit to the second level so the entire nose could swing open. The Boeing 747 features a hidden anchor point under its left wing between the fuselage and the inboard engine. It allows the jet to carry a fifth, non-functioning spare engine to ferry it to a stranded aircraft somewhere else in the world. To maximize fuel efficiency, the 777X uses a massive carbon composite wingspan. However, to avoid being barred from standard airport gates, Boeing engineered folding wingtips that flip up vertically right after landing. Early 737s featured small eyebrow windows above the main windshield. Originally intended to give pilots better visibility during steep bank turns in busy airport patterns, they became obsolete with modern radar and were phased out in 2004 to eliminate maintenance leaks. The General Electric GE90-115B engines mounted on the Boeing 777-300ER are so massive that the engine casing itself is wider than the entire interior cabin diameter of a Boeing 737. In 1955, legendary test pilot Tex Johnston executed a pair of complete barrel rolls in the Boeing 367-80 over Lake Washington to impress airline executives. When reprimanded by Boeing's president, Johnston simply replied, "I was selling airplanes." The Boeing 727 featured a rear air stair that could be dropped mid-flight. After a hijacker used it to parachute out in 1971, Boeing retrofitted all 727s with a Cooper vane, a simple aerodynamic pedal that rotates under wind pressure to lock the stairs completely while airborne. To certify the structural integrity of the Boeing 777's forward windshield, engineers utilized a compressed air gun to fire dead chicken carcasses at the glass at speeds exceeding 400 miles per hour. To transport massive prefabricated fuselage sections of the 787 Dreamliner from factories in Italy and Japan, Boeing modified 4 747-400s into Dream lifters. The entire rear fuselage hinges open sideways to ingest whole components. Right before launching the 787 program, Boeing heavily marketed the Sonic Cruiser, a futuristic data wing concept designed to cruise at Mach 0.98. It was largely a strategic distraction to keep competitors off balance, while Boeing quietly perfected the composite-heavy, ultra-efficient 787 architecture. The Boeing 717 is not a native Boeing design. It was completely engineered by rival McDonnell Douglas as the MD-95. When Boeing acquired the company in 1997, they simply rebranded the T-tailjet to fill a 100-seat gap in their product lineup. Long before the F-117 Nighthawk made stealth famous, Boeing developed a highly classified, top-secret prototype in the 1960s called the Quiet Bird. It explored radar cross-section reduction using chined edges and angled surfaces, decades ahead of its time. The initial 737-100 variant was so incredibly short and boxy compared to modern variants that it was nicknamed the Baby Boeing. Only 30 were ever built, as airlines immediately demanded a stretched fuselage version. To let airlines operate a heavy trijet out of short runways at secondary airports, the Boeing 727 was equipped with incredibly intricate, triple-slotted Fowler flaps that rolled backward and downward, virtually doubling the wing surface area during landing. During structural destruction testing, the carbon fiber wings of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner were flexed upward by 25 feet, nearly 150% of the absolute worst-case aerodynamic load expected in real-world service before the test was halted. The military Boeing C-17 Globemaster III utilizes a blown flap system with direct engine exhaust to generate massive lift. On the ground, its reverse thrusters can be directed up and forward, allowing the massive airlifter to back itself up a 2-degree incline. The total fuselage length of the modern Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental is more than double the entire distance covered by Orville Wright during his historic first flight in 1903. The 1930s experimental Boeing B-52 bomber was so massive that its wings were over 11 feet thick at the root. It featured internal crawlways that allowed flight mechanics to climb inside the wing structures to service the engines mid-flight. The record for the most passengers on an airplane was set in 1991, when 1,086 Ethiopian Jews were evacuated on a Boeing 747 to Jerusalem. The plane landed with 1,088 passengers as 2 babies were born during the flight. Because the military Boeing B-52 Stratofortress features a massive wingspan and an extremely narrow fuselage track, pilots cannot perform a traditional crosswind landing. Lowering a wing to slip the plane would cause the heavy underwing engine pods to violently scrape the runway. To solve this, Boeing engineered a swiveling landing gear system. Before landing, the crew uses a rotary dial in the cockpit to input the runway's heading. All 4 dual bicycle gear bogies mechanically pivot up to 20 degrees left or right. This allows the giant bomber to slide down the runway completely sideways, crab directly into the wind, while its tires roll perfectly straight down the centerline. The Boeing E-4B Doomsday plane, a heavily modified military variant of the 747-200 built to serve as a mobile nuclear command post, features a massive winch in the rear fuselage. When airborne, it deploys a trailing wire antenna that unravels up to 5 miles, 8 kilometers behind the jet. To use it, the pilot flies the massive 747 in a tight, continuous circle at a steep bank angle, causing the 5-mile cable to hang perfectly vertical. This creates a massive antenna capable of transmitting ultra-low frequency radio waves straight down through the ocean's surface to relay nuclear launch authorization codes to submerged ballistic missile submarines. When the original Boeing 777 was under development, the powerplant options were so unprecedentedly massive that shipping them presented a logistical nightmare. The General Electric GE90 engines were too wide to fit inside any standard cargo plane of the era. To solve this, Boeing had to design the fan blades of the GE90 to be completely detachable. This allowed the core of the engine to be split from the front fan casing, enabling it to be packed flat and shipped inside a classic Boeing 747 freighter to reach stranded aircraft worldwide. In 1964, a Boeing B-52H bomber lost its entire 40-foot tail fin to violent turbulence. Usually, losing a tail means an instant fatal crash. But Boeing over-engineered this machine. The crew used asymmetric thrust from its 8 engines to steer and lowered the rear gear for drag. They stayed airborne for 6 hours before landing perfectly. In 1988, a Boeing 737-200 lost its entire upper roof mid-flight. Passengers were exposed to the open sky at 24,000 feet in ripping winds. Any ordinary jet would fold in half, but Boeing's over-engineered floor beams and internal safety straps kept the structure intact. The pilots miraculously landed the convertible airplane safely.